Hello, this is Ryan Lester. Welcome to this week's episode of CXNext Live. Great to have you joining us, whether you're joining from your home office, living room, some remote location. I know many of us are working from new locations these days, but great to have you here. If this is your first time joining, this is a weekly series we do focusing on the world of customer experience, enabling remote work, and we're really excited to have you here. These episodes tend to be about a half hour long. We dig into specific topics, helping you with your CX strategy, learning from real world practitioners, and really focused on the world of customer experience. There's a lot of change we're all dealing with at this time, enabling our employees to work from home, changing in consumer behavior. And so I think we're all looking for insights and actionable items that we can take from others to help improve the way we work. A couple of quick items before we dig into this week's episode. One thing I want to highlight is we're less than 2 weeks away from our CXNext event. We've made it virtual this year, as many of us are not traveling and doing social distancing and working from home. You can check that out at CXNext.com. It's going to be a really exciting event. I'll share more about it later, but we have a number of great speakers. We have a number of great panels, roundtable discussions, networking events, all done virtually. So please feel free to check that out. You can register for free. And I'm personally really excited about that event. It's been a lot of hard work by our team. And I'll share more about that later. But on to today's topic. I know for many of us, there's so many little things that we're dealing with. I personally am working from home. I have 2 small kids. My wife is working from home, and we're trying to balance it all. And what we've found is in our own home life and in my own work life is, many times the little things are what matter most. Whether that be, this is the one thing I want to get done today. I was joking with my team recently, and we all were like, we have 3 things that we're trying to get done today, and let's just get through those 3 things. Into the little things like the way we find information or the way we update our information. But oftentimes there's very small things that make a big difference. And, there's plenty of cliches around this, around, a marathon starts with the first step. But I think now it's even more so the case of we all feel overwhelmed, and we all feel like there's so many burdens coming onto us as CX practitioners, as folks, as parents, or as dealing with family members. And so I think it's a critical time to think about how do we focus on these little things that make a big difference. And that's going to be our focus for today. And, as CX practitioners, we spend a lot of time on this typically on things like journey maps and customer friction points. But I think there's a broader way we can look at this around why little moments matter. And so I'm really excited for my guest this week. Jeannie Walters is a CX expert. She's one of the biggest, best experts in the industry. She brings a wealth of knowledge around the world of customer experience and really how do you look at transforming a customer experience and engaging with your customers in new and exciting ways. So Jeannie, I want to welcome you. Great to have you on this week's episode of CX Next.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me.
So I know our conversation will start today, and you'll be joining us in 2 weeks at CX Next, our big event. So I think this is a great kind of tee up for many of the things you'll be discussing there. But I think it's also relevant to just kind of the changes we're seeing in the way we're working differently. And I think often we get caught up in the big things like, oh, we need to focus on digital transformation and focus on, reinventing our workforce and what does it mean to work from home. And while those topics are all important, they also often can seem daunting and overwhelming. So you have this concept that you focus on around why the little moments matter. Mm-hmm. So can we start off with what does that mean and kind of how do you approach that topic?
Sure. Yeah, this is one of my favorite topics because I think it's one of those areas where if we really started paying attention to these things, we could build better experiences without actually that much effort. So that's one of the reasons I love it. But this idea of micro moments is really about building a relationship and building trust. And in any relationship, we have to build trust by living up to our promises, by being consistent, all of these things. And the same is true with a brand relationship with their customers. And I think there are so many opportunities along the customer journey where the kind of focus for the last several years has been about these big moments, right? Like, how do we wow our customers at every turn? And while that's a really great idea, and I love those moments, I think really customers are looking for, okay, are you going to be there for me consistently?
Yes.
And when you are there for me, are you going to show empathy? Are you going to be compassionate? Are you Are you going to have the same tone throughout all of our communications? And those are little things that kind of add up and add up and add up in order to build trust. And that's why I'm so passionate about it.
Yeah, that's great. I couldn't agree more. And what I like about it also is I think you're right. We kind of get caught up in those wow moments. And there certainly are some that are, really great. I think about like how Apple really focuses on the unboxing experience.
Right.
And while the device is great, they really spend a lot of time on, the design of the box, how you open it, how you take everything out. And so there are those places where you can delight folks. But at the same time, if let's say you have a great unboxing experience or a great, customer purchase process, but then your customer service experience is really daunting and really painful, or, interacting with employees, the employees don't feel well trained or feel well educated, those can really drive customers to churn and to really devalue your brand. Yep. And so I think your point is really a good one of how do you think about that consistency across that journey, not just those maybe key moments that might be related to buying or something that's a big event for the customer, but I think it's more that consistent drumbeat, and I like the word you use, trust.
Yeah, you look at what the data tells us too, and in any relationship, and this is where I always say when I'm speaking, I always say, so think about your significant other when I say this. In any relationship, successful relationships require 12 positive experiences for every one negative one. And so there is kind of this bank, this emotional bank we have, and we put deposits in it so that when we need to take a withdrawal out, there's stuff in the bank. And so when we think about that with our brand relationships, the best brands who do this actually double that and go closer to 24 positive experiences for every one negative. But when we think about that, that's the opportunity. So instead of thinking about we have to do 12 huge, great positive experiences, what if we just did really consistently wonderful positive experiences? And so that when things did go wrong, when they had to, when shipping is delayed or when customer service is backed up or all of those things that are bound to happen, we have enough of these positive moments in the bank to really live through that with our customers and to prove to them that they can still trust us during this time because they know that consistently we've delivered on these smaller moments throughout the journey.
Yeah, there's two things that very much resonate with me on that. I think one, talking specifically around the world of customer experience, is even little things like, I have a question around your hours of operation, or I have a question around, has your cancellation policy changed? Or, those are things that if I have to wait an hour on hold, while it might still be a fine experience at the end, it's not really a great experience for me because I have, my time is valuable. And so even if it's just get me to an outcome faster, or let me self-service, that can be a micro moment that actually is really valuable. And I like the construct you've built, or the example you used of the 12 versus 1. And as a brand, you might be like, well, who cares? Like self-service, fine, but that's not going to delight the customer. But if you have 12 self-service experiences that are really positive, where I got the answer I needed, I got back to what I want to be doing. Now, all of a sudden, in that one bad moment, which might be a big one, you've built up that bank, as you said. And I really like that as a kind of construct to think about of how do we make those little things really simple and easy so that we are building that trust over time. And then the second quick comment is, so now I've moved from being just a dad and someone that works to now a teacher, and I'm certainly really really feeling that with my kids. My daughter just turned 7, and I'm working with her on first grade math, and or on a number of subjects, and just that like small reinforcement. If I kind of celebrate hey, we remembered that 5 + 4 is 9. Celebrating those little things really make a huge difference. And so it's interesting. I have so many other places we can apply many of these learnings. Yeah, but it very much resonates with me.
Well, I love that example because I'm a huge believer in micro celebrations, right? Because I think we often get caught up in process and procedure as business people. And, I worked with a client a few years ago who was a construction company. And one of the things we recognized was that the sales cycle is really it's a long sales cycle. They have to go through all of these different ways to get somebody to finally say, yes, you're the construction firm we're picking, because they did huge projects. And they would, have these moments where the customer felt like, oh, I'm so excited about this. We're finally moving forward. And they would say that to the construction foreman, and he would say, yeah, okay, so we're going to get the guys, blah, blah, blah. And like, just move on, because that's what they were trying
Trained
to
to
do,
do.
right?
Totally.
And
Yes.
so we just said, what if we just celebrate this a little more? What if we just encourage these guys to really celebrate with the customers? And we heard such great feedback about that one moment, and all it was doing was changing the tone of that one phone call, where these guys would suddenly say, like, we are thrilled, we're so happy, this is going to be great. Think about what you're doing, because they were building like hospitals and amazing
Yes.
things.
Yes.
And it was just this little tweak, and it was so meaningful to both parties, because then they walked away feeling better. It improves the employee experience as well in that moment. So it's just, I think there are so many opportunities like that. I sometimes look at how we have been trained as business people, and I think, isn't that a shame that we can't just, act more like you're acting, like with your daughter, and
Yes.
say we did this, and this is worth celebrating, even if it's just this little moment in time where we acknowledge it and we recognize one another for doing that. I think that's a really powerful thing to do.
Well, another thing too, I would tease out a bit further as well that I like is I used to get yelled at because I'm in general an optimistic person and I'm pretty positive, but I used to have this habit of saying great job to people, and I would just say it once again trying to be reinforcing and positive,
Mhm.
but I would say it, and I've got feedback from folks of being like, like, don't tell me great job, this wasn't a big deal or it was a small thing. And I think what's important is aligning the response to the, like, I like what you said of, think about what you're doing, think about the work you're doing, how it aligns to a kind of bigger and
Mhm.
greater good. And it's not just about the praise, because praise is nice, but it's about like celebrating it towards either the thing that was accomplished, or celebrating it towards kind of a bigger, a broader goal of, you have this longer term achievement of, depending on your brand, is it, your lifestyle or your
Mhm.
home or your family or vacation. And so I think I really do like that as a way of thinking about it, of it's not just about the celebration, but also tying it to something that aligns with their overall goals.
That's right. And that's a great point too, because one of the things I talk about a lot is pulling this back to your customer experience mission. Like, what are you
Yes.
really trying to do here on behalf of your customers? How will this thing that you provide, this service or this product, how will that really improve their lives? How will it help them achieve more? What are we really trying to do? And tie everything back to that. And once you start using that lens, and you start looking at the customer journey, you start seeing these opportunities for micro moments everywhere. And, your example reminds me of one that I talk about a lot, because I'm a small business owner. And so I use all of the different, tools available. And a couple years ago, several years ago now, when everybody started using Microsoft for, invoicing, they would
Yes.
put these templates together that were really easy. And part of what that template provided was that line at the bottom that said, thank you for your business. And so everybody sent out the same thing, and it didn't feel genuine. It didn't
Yes.
feel like a moment. And so one of the things I've encouraged people to do is just, change that line. That's all you have to do. Change it to make it more personal and more meaningful. And so one of the things we do is look for, okay, what can we say about this month? What did we do together that was really meaningful? And how can we recognize that on the invoice? And I've heard feedback sometimes where people say, well, yeah, but you're sending the invoice to AP and they don't even know you. And everybody is part of this. And that's part of,
Yes.
what we recognize as well, is that this isn't a customer service team issue. And this isn't just a marketing issue. This is customer experience has to be all in. And so if you can recognize those moments that, yeah, you could neglect them and maybe nothing happens. But what if you put a little more effort in? The opportunity is there, and it's just waiting for all of us to kind of zero in on this. And I think that right now, brands are really paying attention to this because they kind of have to, and customers are really receiving that information better. They are recognizing that brands are built of people. And right now, a lot of us are working from home, and that's okay, and we're adjusting. And so I think that when we think about these small moments, there are many out there that are negative. There are many out there that don't really build that trust for customers.
Yes.
But what if we looked at the ones that we just neglect and go all in on the positive, go all in on being proactive and sharing that information, so that we are really celebrating things along the journey with the customer instead of just looking for those negative things to fix.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I want to dig in that topic more in a minute, but let me just do a quick update for those of you that may have joined a little late. So for those of you joining, this is CXNext Live. It's a weekly series we do focused on the world of customer experience, helping you improve your strategy, deal with all the massive amount of changes we're seeing in the way we work, learn from real world practitioners. We do this weekly series and we're here for you. So please feel free to comment, send us questions. We'd love to help you learn more. Joining me this week is Jeannie Walters. Jeannie and I are talking about the world of micro moments. And she really kind of takes this mentality to heart and talks about how we can build better small moments that build up to a better overall customer experience, and how this helps us build trust with our consumers and really can transform our relationship with a customer as a brand. We've talked about why micro moments matter, how you should look at them, ways they can transform your relationship with your customer over time. And I think the thing you were just mentioning, Jeannie, that's really powerful is that we should focus on those great examples. So where are micro moments going really well? And I think another important thing is that this isn't just for like huge brands. I think what's also important is because we're focusing on the little things, it then says, okay, well, if we're going to focus on the little things, that means anybody can do it. So this isn't just that you have to be a major brand and it's about, only a big brand effort. I was just recently having a conversation with someone who does a lot of their shopping at a local grocery store, and not a bigger chain. And this grocery store was being very adaptive, and they realized that, the store was small, it was crowded, it wasn't really conducive to social distancing. So they went out and they said, we're going to make it so you can do curbside pickup. And they bought some tech, they really focused on that customer journey, and they kind of changed their process and changed their tools to go make that work. And while that's not a tiny micro moment, it is in the sense of small moments of how do you build out your card, how do you buy, how do you schedule your time to pick up. But by stringing those together, their loyal customer base was now like even more loyal because they already liked them for, the fact that they were, local and discounted, but they kind of reworked themselves to work in this COVID world. And I think thinking about those kind of micro moments of who's our customer, why do we care about them, where are we trying to get them, what's that end destination, as you talked about, we can take these little moments and build that out.
Absolutely. That's a great example too. And I think right now there is so much creativity going on around this. And, we have a local ice cream shop here that they had always talked about having a walk-up window. And guess what? In 2 weeks, they blew out part of their brick wall and they have a walk-up window.
That's awesome.
And they do all these creative things where they're actually partnering with other small businesses. So like they had a pack of ice cream sandwiches you could go and pick up. And if you wanted to, they also had a selection of toys from the local toy store.
That's
so
great.
That these parents could make one trip out and, get enough to keep people occupied for the night.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was such a great way to really recognize who their customers were and what they're really trying to do right now in today's world. And there are so many opportunities around that.
I love that as an example. And I also love that, it also goes to not just, it's not just about the process or about the tech, but also just thinking about what is it your customer values and how do you bring that to them in a different or new or elegant way. So I think that's a great example. Right. I'd love to dig into, so you talked about positive examples versus, maybe negative examples. What are some things you're seeing that brands are doing really well, or examples of success in really focusing on these micro moments?
Well, I think a big one right now, and this is both for big and small moments, but I think being proactive for customers right now is super important. And, to your point about sometimes you're waiting on hold to get one simple answer, that's just building frustration and negativity. Yes. When if they were proactive about thinking, what do people need to know right now? And one of the things that I've seen is, some of the big retailers out there, one of them sent an email out saying, our shipping is delayed and here's what's happening. But my favorite part of this was the following question in the email was, you're probably wondering if this affects the return orders that you're sending back. Well, we've extended the timeline and here's what we've done. And I thought that is a really great example of being proactive about
Yes.
what are people going to worry about? What is going to affect them directly, and how can we address that head on? So I liked that a lot. I also really appreciate right now when there's enough transparency about what's happening. And, I've loved some of the brands that have come out with their advertisements and communications where it's obvious that their people are home, because
Yes.
that's
Yes.
the way of the world. And so I think that there are so many examples like that where brands are getting really authentic and customers are responding to that. And so when we think about those interactions that customers are bound to have with brands right now, whether that's, if I'm buying something online, how do I know that everything worked? How do I know when to
Yes.
expect things? We need those moments of reassurance throughout the process right now. And that's where I think there's another huge opportunity to be really proactive and think through, okay, what does somebody need in this moment? You don't have to map out the entire thing all the time. Like, I love journey maps. I'm a huge advocate. But sometimes I think we get so hung up on the end-to-end journey that we
Yes.
forget that, if you dug into, okay, what is this one process like for the customer? And you think about it moment by moment, then you will see these opportunities to provide that little proactive measure, to answer the questions before they have them, to do all of these things that build that trust throughout the journey.
Yeah, I think that's great. I couldn't agree more with that. And I think also, I also like the thing you mentioned around the related information. That's something we spend a lot of time on, is talking
Yeah.
about, the power of self-service and natural language processing and intents. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of that, helps you with better understanding what are those customers' needs. But it's also those related issues. To your point, people may be really worried about, how much they're spending, and they still need things. So they still want to
Yep.
buy, but they may say, hey, look at, I need a new pair of shoes. I can't go to the store. If I buy 3 and I want to return 2, are you going to charge me for all 3? And how long is that going to be on my credit card for?
Yep.
When I'm worried about my job and I'm worried about my savings. And so I think that's a great point about those kind of related items. And then the other funny anecdote I can give you is, I did a webinar recently. We worked hard on the content, and it was, we were talking about the world of self-service and doing, FAQ widgets and rapid response bots. But the thing people remembered most is I started off the webinar and I said, I have 2 new interns, and they're great, but they tend to be somewhat disruptive. And I put a picture up of my 2 kids, and like literally everyone sent me a note and was like, that was the best thing.
Yeah.
And so I think some of that human, like everyone knows we're struggling, and making it
Mm-hmm.
a little more empathetic and human, and that being kind of another little micro moment where it instills to the person that, hey, we're all trying together to get to the right place,
Yep.
and we're struggling with things just like you are. And
Yep.
I think it certainly, I think, helps to put a face to your brand as well.
Well, and I think that as we get through this time, my personal hope is that that authenticity and that humanity that we're all being very real about right now, I hope
Yes.
that continues, because the other side of this is that, we are showing that brands are organizations of people.
Yeah,
That's who we
exactly.
are.
Yes.
And I think customers in return are recognizing that, they're not demanding outrageous perks right now. They're just looking for help.
Yes.
And the relationship is so meaningful right now because we are really looking for things we need and trying to go to our brands and tell them, like, we want you here. I mean, look at all the activism around the local stores and
Yes.
things and the restaurants. I think people are really expressing that the value of these relationships. And I hope that that continues after we get through this, because I think it's something that we were getting away from. Like, there was a lot of talk about authenticity, but not a lot of brands were living it. And I think now every brand is out there saying, hey, we're doing the best we can. Here are the challenges that we have. And they're just laying it out there. And people are responding to that honesty and that transparency. So I really like that part of it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It was interesting. We were talking about this also, of how, the economy was good, things were good. So you kind of, it's almost like, I don't use the word laziness, but you start to like, things are running well. So you kind
Right.
of, to your point, you'll focus on bigger picture, and I think you lose some of that real focus on the customer,
Hmm.
and on kind of what matters most.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really well said. So I want to thank you so much for joining this week. I've really enjoyed the dialogue. I certainly, your message very much resonates with me. To me, the little things really do matter most. The way I always talk about trust is, you have a bucket of trust and you fill it with a thimble. And so it's hard, but it fills. And when it's full, it's valuable. But it takes time. And I think that your example is very poignant and very probably relatable to folks today. So I want to thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. It was great to be here, and good luck, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks on May 12th at our CXNext event. You and Adam will be joining, keynoting that event. And I'm really excited to hear what you guys are going to be sharing. And really excited. And, both of you bring such great energy and I think a real positivity, which folks need right now. So really certainly excited to see you there.
I'm thrilled to be there. I cannot wait. So I hope everybody joins us.
That sounds great. Well, thank you again for joining and looking forward to talking to you soon.
Thanks, Ryan.
And so for those of you out there, I really appreciate you joining this week's episode of CXNext Live. Once again, this is a weekly series we do. So whether you're watching this from home, in your living room or in your home office, or maybe you finally got out for a walk or a run or driving to the store, really great to have you here. Really great to have you join us. And once again, we're here to help you in your customer experience journey, navigate these trying times and many of these new challenges that you're facing, like helping your employees to work remotely, enabling new types of digital channels or self-service. Our goal is to help you navigate that journey better and faster, getting you to a better outcome. I want to make a final plug for our CXNext event on May 12th. It'll be an all-day event that will have a number of keynote speakers, announcements by us, focus on panels, roundtables. So there's a number of things that we'll be sharing that hopefully will help you navigate your customer experience and employee experience journey. So many of us are dealing with many challenges around remote work, around remote support, technical support, digital transformation. Many of the challenges we're facing are really accelerating things that perhaps you've been wanting to do for years. So we're going to use this as an event to really explore those topics in more detail. There'll be both live content and also on-demand content. So I really invite you to register and join. You can do that at CXNext.com. I'm certainly very excited for the discussions and learning from a number of our customers and also experts in the space. So please feel free to join that. Also, feel free to shoot me notes on LinkedIn or comment on these videos. We're here for all of you out there. We're trying to do things to help you address these challenges. We came out with a rapid response widget that we're sharing more information around. We'll come out with new visual engagement tools. So we're really trying to help all of you out there connect you with the remote employees, manage their technology, keep them efficient and effective, and deliver great customer experiences. So please take care of yourselves. Thank you for joining this week's episode. We look forward to future conversations. Check out our event at CXNext.com and look forward to talking to you all soon. Take care of yourselves, be well, and thanks so much.